This is the only way to get your college football week started off on the good foot. It's the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks, and we are absolutely blessed to have the homie Tay back in the building. Taylor Tannebaum.
Hey, give me a little fist bump.
Oh, come on now. My fault. I wasn't even looking. That
was perfect.
I was off kilter having not had you for a few weeks, so I apologize.
That was perfect. Timely.
Either way, we got to check in. It's the halfway point or just beyond that of the college football season, and some things haven't necessarily gone the way that some programs would have hoped. Most recently, the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So we will begin there with allowing the space for people to get their feelings out, and we will be able to help them process them. So we have Sebastian McCain saying, and then we threw 4 picks against Louisville and got upset. So your thoughts, how would you console the homie Sebastian?
Oh, let it all out, Miami fans. I understand where you're coming from. We're talking directly to you, Miami fans, Miami Hurricanes out there. I just want you to know, everybody has a bad day at the offense once in a while, right? Sometimes you come to work and it is just simply not your day. The only problem is for Miami, your office is a giant football field. Millions of people are watching and everybody has to see you have the worst day of your entire life. But I do want to remind you, you're not alone. You're never alone, Trev, because this crazy statistic, AP top 10 teams have lost 18 times this season, the most through 8 weeks of a season since 2007. So it's okay to feel this way, but just know there are other people feeling this very same way that you are, and it's a good reminder for Miami, you're not invincible.
I
You're just not.
appreciate you giving them the soft touch, the caring touch
It's
that is
okay.
absolutely necessary after immediate loss. I'm going to be a little more direct. I appreciate you using the pronoun we. However, this is on one man and one man only. In this instance, in one Carson Beck. Everybody, to your point, is allowed to get caught slipping every now and again. However, we are not going to then post-game kind of say, you know, that route should have been ran a certain way.
Didn't love that.
When we know that there is another pick that could have been on that board courtesy of you. So I only say that to say this is an aberration. I still do believe that Miami is one of the best teams in the land from a talent standpoint. But things get weird in the ACC on Friday night, and that Louisville team wasn't nothing to be trifled with to begin with. It was a perfect storm. We are understanding of this Miami Hurricanes team, and it's a good thing that you still got the rest of your schedule in front of you, that you can go out there and dominate and put yourself right back into the playoff conversation without any question.
All right, so you're the tougher parent.
I'm
the one that kind of
eases
into.
I got a soft spot in my heart every now and again.
Okay,
now.
I see. All right, I'm going to tee you up on your Bulldogs and how people may be feeling right now.
Okay.
I tell people the SEC still goes through Athens. This is what the people are apparently saying, Trev. What say you?
Okay, so there's a little bit of delusion there. I don't think we have to fake the funk.
Yeah.
However, I will say, your coach said it perfectly in Kirby Smart, that you're a hard team to kill. And there's something to take pride in that dynamic. You got a man in Gunnar Stockton that sets the tone for this team day in and day out, making plays when they are absolutely necessary, and cats want to fight for him on every single down. The identity is switched up for this Georgia team. It used to be we will strangle you defensively and get done what we need to offensively.
Right.
You now have to get done what you need to offensively, and it's going to be a shootout inevitably because you're putting up 40 points nearly on a regular basis, and it's out of necessity. So long as you, Georgia fans, and Georgia, like just general the followers are okay with the identity switching up, you can rest assured that you still very much so have a place in the conversation in the SEC, but it ain't going through you anymore. There's nothing wrong with it.
All right, that's fair. For the dog fans out there barking, I'm just going to say this. It's hard to say that the SEC runs through Athens when Alabama literally walked into your trap and took over your trap.
That is facts.
They did. That's really true. But I will say, look, they are the defending champions, so they do hold the crown right now, so you do have a little bit of leeway there. But I do think Gunnar Stockton has shown me something. I know you've mentioned it hasn't always looked the same as it has in years past, but hey, winning is winning is winning
Gamer, dog.
is winning. So, while I wouldn't say the SEC necessarily runs through Athens, I don't even think the SEC runs through anywhere. I don't know any championship in the country runs through somewhere in particular. The SEC could run through Nashville. Yes, Nashville this year.
Hell yeah, brother.
So there is a little bit of delusion. I can understand why you feel that way, but I have plenty of arguments against it, Trev.
I just love how wide open this thing is. It is truly anybody's league to take. You mentioned Cashville. Why not bring Vandy into the room to have their discussion? They say here, the Doors, I'm scared of clowns, heights, and rankings. How would you then console a team that maybe having a bit of imposter syndrome, if you will.
And sometimes we all feel a little bit of that from time to time. So I'm going to talk to the actual team here, and I'm going to validate your feelings. Okay. I can understand why you may be feeling this way. 1947 is the last time they were ranked this high. This is uncharted territory. But I'm going to tell you guys something that Mike Young, who's the head basketball coach at Virginia Tech, once told me when I was feeling a little unsure of myself and scared before my first time sidelining. He told me, you know what, they didn't hand this to you. You earned this. And that changed my mindset. Vanderbilt, you earned this top 10 ranking. Don't change who you are, because who you are has gotten you to this point. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep rolling. The numbers will come. The accolades will come. But don't second guess yourself. Now, you didn't at the start of the season.
No
Diego
doubt.
Pavia has never second guessed who he
Ever.
is. So why not keep it pushing number 10, Vandy?
I like that. Like, to your point, I feel them on the first two fears. I don't fool with clowns, I don't fool with heights. That's why
you don't?
I'm not touching a roller coaster even if you pay me. But I digress. Okay. That rankings thing, there's no need for them to fear that. You are a top 10 team for a reason, obviously. The identity, above all else, is sort of what has carried you to this point. So just go ahead and lean into it, baby. You're a tough team that brings a brand of physicality that not a whole lot of teams can match, which is a wild thing to say about the Vanderbilt Commodores, but it is absolutely true. And to your point, I understand that Diego Pavia may not necessarily wow you with his passing numbers. He's barely scratching the surface on top 50 in yards over the course of the season. However, he is number one in a swagger that is unmatched by anybody, and it is so dang fun to watch him go out there and work each and every week because of how much he is sort of willing that team to victory at times. But it's not to say that there's not a roster constructed around him that has really maxed out on the potential talent that they have.
Yep.
Run game is immaculate. They're able to defensively strangle folks when they absolutely need to. It's just a fun team to watch, man, and that's why you got to just ride this wave. No need to have the imposters.
All right, we're looking at you, Vandy. We'll see. Maybe everything does run through Nashville. Who knows? So you're telling me your biggest fears are clowns and heights? Those
I
two
don't
things?
fool with neither one of them.
All right, my biggest fear is 18-wheelers. Isn't that weird?
Really?
Yeah, hate them on the highway.
Like just,
kind of.
Okay, that's fair.
But I love me a roller coaster. We'll leave it at that.
You got it.
Okay, time now for unstoppable performances presented by Ram Trucks. We just got done talking about a couple of SEC teams that are in the hunt, but Bama might just be the team to actually beat. Sorry, Trev. I have to apologize. They did have a 17-point win over Tennessee last week for their fourth straight win over a ranked opponent. A gauntlet, but the Tide have answered the call each week and have looked really good doing it. So that brings up the question of quarterback. And Mr. Ty Simpson, as you've watched throughout the course of the season, what have you liked about this young QB?
He pops up on my timeline every week, making NFL caliber throws, tossing seeds out there.
Bing, bing, bing.
He has shown an ability to sort of around amidst pressure, not be rattled, and step into throws that are absolutely necessary to make the big plays that the Bama offense needs on a weekly basis. Also does so in hostile environments, going into UGA and getting that win, going into Mizzou and getting that win. After that season opening loss, there's something that clicked with not only Ty Simpson, but the Bama offense as a whole that has made them an absolute wagon down the stretch here.
I love that term, an absolute
Just a wagon.
Here's my thing about Ty Simpson, especially with young quarterbacks. You can see, instead of like an upward trajectory, you could see like,
Sure.
There are some dips along the way, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. But with Ty Simpson, you've had a steady incline every single week, and you started off with their opening game against Florida State, okay? He completed just 54% of his passes in that game, had a QBR of 45. He wasn't terrible, but he certainly wasn't perfect. He bounced back the week after. Granted, it was ULM with a perfect game, 17 of 17. Yeah. He figured out how to put that right behind him, and since then, he's been off to the races. And it's also the way, I mentioned the word steady, but he's in complete control of this offense. And I know people hate the term game manager, but he's an incredible manager for being so young with all the talent he has around him. His touchdown to interception ratio, 18-1, has thrown one interception all season. That's a crazy statistic for a young guy who's still getting used to playing at this level against the best competition in all the land.
To your point, that pejorative term, game manager, should no longer be a pejorative because of cats like Ty Simpson absolutely take advantage of the position while not doing too much in the process.
Yeah, exactly. And they look like they are, no pun intended, rolling right forward with potential to lock up the SEC and, of course, the college football playoff berth. Now, does Bama, in the latest ranking, deserve a higher ranking than the undefeated teams ranked above them? Here you have Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, all 7-0, and there you have the Tide, ahead of Georgia, 6-1
He's
on the season. No, that wasn't an intentional dig. But right there, that's just because of head-to-head. Okay, that's recency bias right there. But what's your take on that?
Who for what? Anyways, yeah, now I do believe that Bama is in the right spot.
Okay.
You have to value the unbeatens when it comes to this college football space as you're trying to rank these teams. I understand that if you wanted to go more of a power rating, like who would you favor on a neutral field, yeah, Bama may be favored against a couple of those teams that are ahead of them. However, if we're doing this based upon resume, an unblemished resume should be ranked higher than a blemished resume,
Right.
and that is the classic example of what we're looking at with the Tide currently in those rankings.
Yeah, you and I are on the same wavelength here. Here's the thing. The committee considers a ton of things, and of course we talk to Heather Dinich every week. One of them, strength of record. Texas A&M, Indiana, Ohio State, all right now higher than Alabama, who's number 4 in that. Game control, Indiana and Ohio State are higher than Alabama. You know, Texas A&M is in the top 10, so they're all very close. They're FPI. Alabama is second, but all of these teams are in the top 10. So when the metrics are all that close, right?
Yes.
They're all clustered together. What's the difference? One has a loss, the other 3 don't. So that is the differentiator,
No doubt.
I would agree, which is why Alabama sits at 4. But I also wouldn't be kind of opposed to the fact that they could be ranked above them because of everything that they have done to this point with what they've had and the way that they started the season and the way they look now. But as a Florida State alum and fan, I am scarred for life with having an undefeated team left out of the college football playoff and other teams like Alabama jumping them. So I would give the credit to the undefeated teams at this point.
No doubt.
Yeah. So the Alabama Crimson Tide, I think we all agree, have been pretty darn good so far to this point. They do have coming up, though, the South Carolina Gamecocks, who right now maybe haven't had the season that they had hoped to up to this point. So when you're looking ahead to this game, what are you keeping an eye on?
I want them to get that run game going, they being Alabama. I know it's been able to sort of been makeshift run game by getting the short passes to the outside, allowing Jam Miller space to work through swing passes or whatever have you. But when it comes to December and beyond, run game and defense are the things that travel with you. And so with that understanding, you have to be able to find a way to get that going. 112th in the country in yards per rush isn't going to cut it if you legitimately want to make something shake come playoff time. And that's where Bama sits currently. I just want to see if you can tweak that, get that going against the South Carolina team that's struggling in Cocktober of all months. Dang it.
I didn't know you were going to hit me with that. But here we are, moving on. You are more on that Alabama side of things, and rightfully so. But I'm going to go with the opponent they're facing this weekend in South Carolina, because that's what I'm watching for. As I alluded to, hasn't been the season that they expected. They're 3-4, back-to-back losses to LSU and Oklahoma, but they're back home in Columbia this week, trying to bounce back from those 2 losses. And look, this could be a rallying kind of game for the Gamecocks. This is a game for Alabama. You can't overlook South Carolina because of what you have coming up after in LSU and Oklahoma. That's why I'm looking at the South Carolina side of things, because I'm like, man, this could be a chance for them. Hey, why not go beat one of the top teams in the country on our home field, get back to our wannabe winning ways. And for Alabama, you can't sleep on the Gamecocks. So
No question.
That's my thought process there, Trev.
Absolutely. One of the best parts of this here program is when we get to do the Mad Max visits. Max Browne in with us on the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks. And usually we set the table for the week ahead, but first I want to begin with this coaching carousel that's only picking up steam after Billy Napier was let go. 3-4 start, 22-23 over his 4 seasons down there with the Gator program. Where do you see that job as far as an appeal goes, and how that all unfurled for Billy Napier and the Gators?
Where I see it, it's a busy market. I mean, there's a lot of good jobs open, and you could see this coming back in January because there was not as many firings last offseason. So you're saying, all right, this season, you know, teams might be making up for that. But I think it's obviously still a premier job. But to me, you know, I've put it above, I've put it behind Penn State. I think Penn State is the best job on the market. And then it's obviously he's got to compete with Arkansas. I think it's a better job than Arkansas. But the point now is the difference for this Florida job now compared to 7 years ago is NIL's level the playing field. It's no longer, hey, how good's your brand and your legacy? It's, you know, how much money can you bring to the table? And yes, Florida's always going to have the advantage of being able to recruit that backyard. But at the end of the day, recruits, it's not necessarily going about to the hometown school. It's going to where, hey, where am I going to get paid the most? So the landscape's changed, but no doubt Florida's still a premier job.
Yeah, recruiting a little bit different these
Slightly.
days than it was back when
slightly.
you guys were going to play your college football. But nonetheless, they still owe you, I think, a little bit of a payday. All right, let's push it ahead to week 9 because you have now number 8 Ole Miss taking on number 13 Oklahoma. Ole Miss coming off that loss to his Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. And look, they looked really good. They scored on their first 5 possessions of the game. They just couldn't close out the football game. But what did you see in that game from the Rebs that could potentially carry over to this weekend against the Sooners?
That this offense is lights out, and they're consistently making plays down the field. Like, man, they push the ball down the field, and they're very efficient too. And looking ahead to this matchup, they don't take sacks, and this OU defense has prided itself on taking sacks and allowing pressure to the quarterback. So Ole Miss has those guys rolling, and it's very much strength on strength. The offensive attack for Ole Miss and the defense for Oklahoma, that's very much showed up. They're just awfully efficient, and really when they stalled in the fourth quarter there, it was because the Georgia DBs were able to, have those pass breakups down the field.
Yep.
That's going to be key for this Sooner defense. Can the secondary show up? Because this offense gets the ball out so fast, I don't think it'll be the Oklahoma defensive line that makes an impact, which is what we've seen so much this season, but it'll be a tall task for the Sooners, no doubt.
And even, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to hit him with the other side.
Oh, go for it.
You need the other side with John Mateer.
No doubt.
Because they're going up against a really good quarterback. Oh, we got some music there in the background. John Mateer, obviously, they're 1-1. Oklahoma is with him returning at quarterback. But here comes the chunk of their schedule. 5 straight ranked opponents on deck.
Oh, yeah.
What are you seeing out of Mateer as he continues to work his way back from that broken hand?
He's missing a huge part of his game in his legs, and we're paying so much attention to his hand, but I would imagine the play calling is changing because they don't want that hand to get impacted in the run game, and that's what made him great early on in the season. It's been a non-factor these past 2 games. He's been getting carries, but you haven't seen the impact of that. And to me, if Oklahoma's going to contend and start making a run here, and like you said, Taylor, their next 5 games on paper are all against ranked teams, his legs have to be a factor. So good win last week. Again, I think the defense and the defensive line is playing well. They were able to contain Lenora Sellers, but it's the legs that's the big difference between pre-injury and post-injury for Mateer that they got to get back in the fold.
No question about that. Elsewhere in the SEC, Texas A&M taking on LSU. Obviously going to be headlined by the 2 quarterbacks in Marcel Reed and Garrett Nussmeier, but that Texas A&M defense has shown an ability to get after folks and really lock folks up. Is there any way that LSU is going to figure this thing out offensively in this matchup, Max?
Anytime you got Garrett Nussmeier, you got a chance.
Wow.
That film last week I thought was really impressive. I know some people are selling their Garrett Nussmeier stock, but I think they're getting confused with Garrett Nussmeier stock is not LSU stock, and they are not helping anything around Garrett Nussmeier in terms of a run game and protecting him. This dude is an absolute warrior and gave LSU a chance last week versus Vandy. So you got a chance when he's behind center, but it's going to be a tall task. Like you said, the A&M defensive line versus this LSU offensive line, and this LSU offense is just incredibly one-dimensional. It was the case last year. It's the case again this year. There's no threat in the run game, but it's very much hey, Garrett Nussmeier was the top quarterback heading into the season SEC-wise in this season. Next year, that could be Marcel Reed. So Marcel Reed's getting a stage right now where, he jumped from 8th in Heisman odds this past week to now 4th. If he's able to go toe-to-toe with Garrett Nussmeier and maybe out-duel him, what an opportunity that would be for his Heisman case looking forward here a month from now.
Cha-ching. You hear that? That means place your bets now. Let's stay in the SEC with another ranked showdown because you do have Missouri and you do have Vanderbilt. And yes, the Doors are top 10 in the country. You heard it here first. Max, when did you know Vanderbilt was legit? Were you early on or did they have to play their way for your love?
Hey, I'm on record saying back in the spring when Vegas came out with Vandy's over-under win total at like 4.5, I was like, we got to hammer the over. Did we not watch what happened with Vandy last season?
I like it.
But to say that I was thinking in late October they'd be a top 10 team in the country, I don't know if I was there yet, but the growth of Diego Pavia has been incredible. I mean, last year was all about his legs and run game. This year, he's slinging the rock, and this offense is efficient. He's doing a lot of good things, so I'm definitely a believer in Vandy contending for a CFP spot. That is very much real. I think they have the roster, the talent, the backing to make a run there, and obviously got to take care of business this week versus Mizzou.
How about those dang Doors? I know you're a believer in the program as a whole, but Diego Pavia and that Heisman pose that he struck. You mentioned Marcel Reese's odds jumping up. So did Diego's. Are you a believer in the potential of him making a trip to New York and maybe even winning the thing? Why not?
I mean, I love the pose, I love the confidence, but I don't know if the stats are there. I think there's some other quarterbacks in his own conference that are better positioned. Ty Simpson is playing like the best quarterback in the country. I love his odds. Like I said, Marcel Reed, because of the team around him and the stage that A&M might have coming down the stretch, I think I like his odds a little bit better, but make no mistake about it, the impact that Diego Pavia has had, not only from just a quarterback perspective, but a leadership perspective, instilling belief in these guys, he deserves all the credit for having Vandy right where they are, middle of October, still in contention.
Yep.
I'm telling you, just wild.
Who would have thought?
Top 10 Vanderbilt confidence.
Indiana, Georgia Tech. There's a world where we have IU, Georgia Tech, and Vandy in a college football playoff.
I love college football.
What a time to be alive.
Times are changing.
It evens the playing field, baby. You just got to roll with it. Matt Browne, appreciate you rolling with us here on the Kickoff presented by Rand Trust, brother. Have a great call this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's take a look at the remaining slate, at least a few of them. All eyes on the ACC, suddenly on Georgia Tech this weekend against Syracuse.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't been paying attention to what Brent Key's doing in Atlanta, welcome to the party. Quarterback Haynes King, one of the best dual-threat QBs in the country. Clearly he's got to find a way to stop him, but I kind of think Georgia Tech's going to extend to 8-0 on the season.
You know, it feels like it, but Fran Browne, you never know how well he can get guys up for any given matchup on any given team. All I'm saying is don't take UCLA lightly, though. If you are a Hoosier, those jokers have flipped their program odds as well.
The fact that UCLA is 3-1 in the Big Ten is absolutely insane. ESPN Analytics says 4% chance to win. I don't know. I'm not down the Bruins at this point. I'm not.
You can't. Rick Neuheisel has those boys absolutely balling, and then Tim Skipper at the helm of it all is just letting those boys spin. They seem to be having a whole lot of fun out there at UCLA, and why not them, to your point?
Right.
South Florida, could the group of 5 champ be playing in this one between the Bulls and the Memphis Tigers?
Yeah. Both sitting at 6-1. South Florida is in the driver's seat, ranked 18th in the country. Memphis got a reality check with the bad loss to UAB. Chance for them to rebound, maybe shake some things up in the American.
I could argue that they could have taken a loss against Arkansas the weekend before, so it's almost like an evening of the karma for the Memphis Tigers. So either way, they still are very much so in contention. Now, how will Carson Beck bounce back after their loss to Louisville just last Friday?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Stanford is coming to town. Miami is significantly better than the Cardinal. Even though, look, they do have 3 wins on the season, but this shouldn't be close. I expect them to regroup early often.
I think you can absolutely expect that, but Florida State found out that you can expect all you want to, but you better go out there and ball if you want to get a win column against the Stanford Cardinal.
Dang, Trev, dang. Alrighty, let's check out this week's college football playoff projections from Heather Dinich. Trev, a lot of shuffling around this weekend, and that's what stands out to me on this list, the one highlighted right there. Here come the Irish fighting their way back in.
They've been hanging around all season long for sure. I was fascinated by the massive drop by Miami. I didn't know that the committee was not committee, but the voters were just waiting on an idea to get them up out of the paint. And I don't know, from Heather's perspective, how much they actually fell from a skill and talent standpoint as opposed to just perception overall.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to start with Heather Dinich, because the only one that can break down that madness of a list is Heather herself. Northeast Pennsylvania's finest, by the way.
That's right.
Even greater than the Yingling that has come out of there is Heather Dinich. Let's start with the Canes, because they did drop in your standings, but it's not because of the loss. It's the way they lost. Why?
Well, because the selection committee has former coaches and players on it, and they see things like 4 turnovers, 5 of 12 on 3rd downs, but you have to take the poor performance in context with the whole body of work, right? And you also have to give Louisville some credit, right? Anyone watching this game saw a respectable 1-loss Louisville team that got it done on the road. And is Louisville a CFP top 25 team? That factors into the committee's debates. But when you look at the biggest impact this game had, guys, you're talking about Miami squandering an opportunity to get a first-round bye as one of the top 4 teams. That's the biggest impact off that loss.
No question, no question. I wholeheartedly agree with you regarding that Louisville Cardinals team because of that fluky loss even they had to UVA in overtime that just got weird. Things get weird in general in the ACC on Friday night, evidently. Alabama. Talking about another team that's sort of moving up steadily. When we look at what their resume, they're now at number 3 after that Tennessee game. What is factoring into their climb mostly?
This is a combination of eye test and resume. They're checking every box for the things that the selection committee would look for, and the committee is not afraid to put a one-loss team ahead of an undefeated team if it's the total package. Alabama has won 4 straight games against ranked opponents. They're number 2 in strength of schedule. Undefeated Texas A&M is number 21. That's not a huge difference in strength of schedule, but what Alabama has been able to do in consecutive weeks trumps Texas A&M's lone non-conference win against Notre Dame, which is really the best thing they have going for them on their resume.
Yeah, that's something that keeps people up at night, is the debate between a one-loss team and an undefeated team, who deserves to be in front of the other. I'm going back to the ACC because Georgia Tech has entered the chat for you, Heather. They are now in your top 12. And look, they're undefeated on the season, 7-0. They are atop the ACC right now as it stands. What is their CFP outlook, especially because they do have Georgia still left on their schedule to close out the regular season?
They do, and that's the toughest remaining game on their schedule. And everybody should remember they took them to 8 overtimes last year before losing. But Georgia Tech was a tricky one for me this week on Saturday night, guys, because yes, they're undefeated. They've got 2 road wins against ACC teams over 500, which is respectable, but they're number 94 overall in strength of schedule. So the way I look at Georgia Tech moving forward is they've got to beat these unranked teams down the stretch in the second half of the season, look good in the process, right? Now look, they win the ACC, they're a lock. This isn't a conversation. Where it gets tricky for Georgia Tech is if they lose to Georgia and they lose in the ACC championship game. What does the selection committee think of a 2-loss ACC runner-up in Georgia Tech that has those 2 losses, but not a lot of great wins? That strength of schedule could come back and haunt them. A win against Georgia would do wonders for them, obviously, if they finished as ACC runner-up.
See, I don't even want to think about that concept as a Georgia fan. I don't need that in my life.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that weekend with him, Heather. It's going to be so fun.
I'll be sweating the whole time. Anyways, Notre Dame, they're at the number 12 spot in that in your playoff projections. However, they would be bumped with that 5th conference championship, given that they don't have a conference nor a conference championship. So what are we to make of their sort of entering into the conversation, something that a lot of folks felt was inevitable even after the 2 losses that they took early this year?
Right. Look, it's no secret within that locker room that they have got to run the table and finish 10-2 in order to have a chance, right? I talked to Marcus Freeman about this. He said, we don't think about that. We don't think about what if you win this game, what if you lose this game. We just try to go out and win every game. That's every coach everywhere, right? But the reality is the safe place to be in the committee's top 12 is within the top 10, because it's not just the 12th spot that can get bumped out, it's the 11th spot. If you have 2 conference champions that are ranked outside, and you got to make room for them, right? So pay attention to Navy. They're undefeated. They're one of 6 undefeated teams left. They've got a really tough schedule. But if Navy can work its way into the CFP rankings, that would give, well, if Notre Dame wins, that would give them another top 25 win to go along with USC. So the schedule might not be as bad as it seems. But listen, I'm telling you, there are going to be a lot of 2-loss teams for the selection committee to consider. Notre Dame is playing good. We talked about Miami and that Louisville. That was not good football, okay? Notre Dame is playing good football. They're playing good defense. That can help separate you from other 10-2 teams.
Yeah, did we expect anything less out of Notre Dame climbing right back into the conversation? Heather, thank you. As always, continue your mission on social media too, by the way. Love the snarkiness along with the smarts. You're the best in the business. Absolutely the best.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Thanks, Heather. She really is, and she, she takes people's comments and she makes them look silly. I love every minute of it.
No
All right,
question.
we agree with Heather this week?
I'm with it, man. And yeah, the Notre Dame brand is brolic for a reason, right? They've built up the reputation, but also they certainly do make a show of it on the field as well.
All
so
right.
we're going to see.
We're ready for a crazy week 9 of the college football season. Can hardly believe it. For Trev, I'm Taylor. Thank you so much for watching the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks. We will see you same time, same place next week, y'all.